The glass slipped from his fingers the moment her name was mentioned. The music inside the private room suddenly felt distant. The laughter faded. And for the first time that night, Zeng looked completely shattered. Nobody expected the strong smile he always carried to disappear so quickly. Nobody expected his eyes to turn heavy with pain after just a few quiet words about Bai Lu. But what happened next left everyone in stunned silence. Stay until the end because this story is not just emotional. It feels like watching two hearts slowly drift apart while neither of them truly wants to let go. And the final moment of the night left even the people around them speechless. The evening had started beautifully. Soft lights filled the luxury rooftop lounge overlooking the glowing city skyline. Famous actors and industry friends gathered around long tables covered in expensive dishes and sparkling drinks. Music floated through the air, while cameras flashed from every corner. It looked like one of those perfect celebrity nights fans always dream about. Zeng arrived late, dressed in black with a calm expression on his face. At first he smiled politely and greeted everyone with his usual warmth. But those closest to him quickly noticed something felt different. His smile looked forced. His eyes looked tired. And every few seconds he checked his phone, as if waiting for a message that never came. One actor jokingly asked him where Bai Lu was. The room laughed lightly at first because everyone already knew how often their names were linked together. But Joseph did not laugh. Instead, he quietly lifted his drink and looked away. That small moment changed the entire atmosphere of the night. People exchanged glances. Some became curious. Others suddenly realized something deeper might be happening behind the scenes. As the hours passed, Joseph drank more than anyone expected. At first, he remained calm. Then he slowly became emotional. One friend sitting beside him tried to lighten the mood by talking about upcoming projects and travel plans. But Joseph barely responded. His thoughts seemed trapped somewhere far away. Then came the moment nobody would forget. A soft romantic song began playing in the background. One of those slow emotional songs that instantly brings back memories people try hard to hide. Joseph lowered his head. His fingers tightened around the glass in his hand. And then he quietly whispered something that froze the entire table. "She keeps pushing me away." The people around him immediately went silent. Nobody knew whether to comfort him or pretend they did not hear it. But Joseph continued speaking softly while staring at the table. "I tried to stay close. I try to understand her. But every time I get near her, she builds another wall." His voice sounded heavy with heartbreak. Not angry, not bitter, just exhausted. One actress nearby reportedly looked completely emotional hearing him speak like that. Because Joseph was known for being cheerful even during difficult times. Seeing him so vulnerable shocked everyone. The city lights reflected against the glass windows behind him while the music continued playing quietly. And suddenly the glamorous celebrity gathering no longer felt glamorous at all. It felt painfully human. Someone placed a hand on Joseph's shoulder and told him things would get better. But he only smiled weakly before taking another drink. Then he finally spoke the words that made the room fall completely silent. "Sometimes love is not losing someone. Sometimes it is watching them slowly walk away while you're still standing there waiting." Nobody moved after hearing that. Even the people who were not close to him looked emotional, because the pain in his voice felt too real to ignore. Outside the rooftop lounge, rain slowly began falling over the city. The lights blurred against the wet windows, creating a scene that looked straight out of a heartbreaking movie. Joseph stood up quietly and walked toward the balcony alone. For several minutes, nobody followed him. He leaned against the railing while the cold wind moved through his hair. The city stretched endlessly beneath him, yet he looked completely lost inside his own thoughts. One close friend eventually walked over and asked him if he was okay. Joseph laughed softly. But it was the kind of laugh people make when they are trying not to completely fall apart. "You know what hurts the most?" he asked quietly. "It is when someone still cares about you but acts like they have to leave." His friend had no answer. Because sometimes there are no words strong enough to fix heartbreak. Inside the lounge, the atmosphere remained tense. People whispered quietly among themselves. Some believed Joseph and Bai Lu had experienced misunderstandings caused by their busy schedules. Others believed fame itself had created distance between them. But nobody truly knew the full story. All they knew was that Joseph looked like a man carrying sadness, too heavy to hide anymore. Hours later, Bai Lu's name came up again during conversation. This time Joseph closed his eyes briefly before speaking. She thinks pushing me away will protect both of us. The sentence immediately caught everyone's attention. Protect both of us. Those words carried so much hidden meaning that nobody dared interrupt him. Joseph explained that fame changes everything. Every interaction becomes public discussion. Every smile becomes a rumor. Every silence becomes speculation. And eventually people begin protecting themselves by creating emotional distance. But distance hurts too, he said quietly. The rain outside became heavier. Thunder echoed faintly across the skyline while the lounge lights reflected against the dark clouds. The night now felt cinematic, almost unreal. One friend finally tried changing the topic by bringing up funny memories from past filming sets. For a brief moment, Joseph smiled genuinely. The people around him relaxed slightly, seeing his mood improve. But then someone accidentally played a behind-the-scenes clip showing Joseph and Bai Lu laughing together during filming months earlier. The entire table froze again. Joseph stared silently at the screen. The clip showed Bai Lu smiling brightly while Joseph looked at her with unmistakable affection. They looked comfortable together, happy together, like two people who understood each other without needing words. And that was exactly what made the moment so painful. Joseph quietly stood up again. This time his eyes looked watery beneath the dim lights. "You see that?" he asked softly. That was before everything became complicated. Nobody spoke. He continued staring at the screen for several seconds before finally whispering something that reportedly left even staff members emotional. "I miss the version of us that did not have to be afraid." Those words spread through the room like silence after storm. One actress nearby reportedly wiped tears from her eyes. Another person quietly turned away because the emotion felt too heavy to watch. Joseph eventually sat back down while resting his face against one hand. The cheerful energy from earlier in the night was completely gone now. Only emotion remained. For a long moment nobody spoke at all. Then Joseph suddenly smiled faintly and shook his head as if realizing he had revealed too much. "Maybe I drank too much tonight," he joked softly. But everyone knew alcohol was not the real reason those feelings came out. Sometimes people carry emotions quietly for too long until one small moment causes everything to spill out at once. As midnight approached, the guests slowly began leaving. The rain outside finally softened into a gentle drizzle. Cars lined up below the building while city lights shimmered across the wet streets. Joseph remained near the balcony one final time before leaving. He looked calmer now, but there was still sadness in his eyes. One friend reportedly asked him if he still believed things could change between him and Bai Lu. Joseph stayed silent for several seconds before answering. Some people never stop loving each other, even when life keeps pulling them apart. That single sentence stayed in everyone's mind long after the night ended, because it did not sound like anger. It sounded like unfinished love. And maybe that is what made the story so heartbreaking. Not betrayal, not hatred, not dramatic fights. Just two people standing on opposite sides of fear and distance while still quietly caring about each other. The next morning, rumors exploded online after people close to the gathering hinted about Joseph's emotional breakdown. Fans immediately flooded social media with reactions. Some defended Bai Lu, saying she may simply be protecting her peace and career. Others sympathized deeply with Joseph after hearing how emotional he became. But among all the discussions, one thing became clear. People were not reacting because of celebrity gossip alone. They were reacting because the situation felt painfully relatable. Almost everyone has experienced a moment where someone they loved slowly became emotionally distant. Almost everyone knows what it feels like to stand there hoping things return to how they once were. That is why Joseph's words hit so deeply. Because beneath the fame and cameras, he sounded just like an ordinary person struggling to hold onto someone important. And perhaps somewhere quietly away from the cameras, Bai Lu might also be carrying emotions nobody else can see. Because sometimes the people who push others away are hurting too. The city eventually moved on from that rainy, emotional night. New headlines appeared. New celebrity stories replaced the old ones. But for the people who witnessed Joseph standing alone on that balcony while rain covered the glowing skyline behind him, they knew they had seen something unforgettable. Not an actor performing for attention, just a man quietly admitting his heart was tired. And maybe that is what made the entire night so unforgettable. The silence in his voice, the sadness behind his smile, and the painful truth hidden inside those final words. I miss the version of us that did not have to be afraid. If this story touched your heart, then stay connected for more emotional celebrity moments and untold stories that reveal the human side behind fame and success. Because sometimes the most unforgettable stories are not the loudest ones. Sometimes they're the quiet heartbreaks nobody sees coming.